welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. This is episode 4 of Unlocking Opportunities. Got the greatest title, No One Left Offline. We're talking around essential digital skills. Unlocking Opportunities, this is a partnership between FE News and NCFE. And we've been building around the whole mission-led approach from our new government. And today is a really important show because last week was NEETs, and we went live just as the data come out from the latest batch of NEET data. We're talking 900,000 16 to 24-year-olds are not in education, employment and training. But when we look at the data around what's happening with essential digital skills, it's actually kind of alarming, but it's kind of very timely. I don't know if you've seen this really cool O2 advert with the Sims that are floating like snowflakes. Love that advert. That's from Good Things Foundation as well, that works with O2, and it highlights the importance of data poverty, which we're going to be talking about. But there's also some really interesting data from Future.now with their Essential Digital Skills Gap report, which basically highlights that 1.9 million working age adults can't complete any of the 20 essential digital working skills. 1.9 million adults can't complete any of those. That's, we put into context of 900,000 NEETs compared to 1.9 million adults. That's kind of alarming. And everyone knows I'm very pro around future tech. But we need to be able to get our foundations in place. We've had the white paper, another white paper this week around Get Britain Working. There's a mention in there around like digital skills, but it's like, could we be doing more? We've got 2 absolutely epic guests. So I've mentioned Good Things Foundation and Future.now. We've got Judy Hawker, MBE, who works with both those organisations. Better come from that. David Redden from NCFE. But my co-host, as always with the show, is Michael Lemon. Michael, can I bring you into the studio? Hey, Michael, how are you?
Yeah, good, very good. Thanks, Gavin. How are you?
Yeah, good. There's another white paper, more things sort of happening within the sector at the moment. But essential digital skills, digital literacy. There's different ways we can sort of word what we're sort of talking around with digital. Is becoming increasingly important now, day-to-day working lives in modern society. What are some of the risks of a lack of digital skills can have for everyone in their everyday and their world of work?
Yeah, so I think of this in terms of the disadvantage gap's really well known, and I think this is a really big part of that. We've got the people who can do this and the people who can't, and it has a huge impact on your life and your outcomes. If you think about personal life, we're increasingly digitizing everything really. Whether it's paying for your parking, paying your bills. Try and buy a ticket for a concert without going online these days. You're not going to get a Taylor Swift one from standing at the box office. Even things like checking your bank account. But there's deeper things like that around staying safe. We see the stories on the BBC every week, and other news outlets are out there as well. Where it could be pensioners being kind of scammed out of their savings. It could be working age people. There's all kind of things out there, and people need to understand how to keep themselves safe. And then we think about their working lives as well. Actually, sectors where occupations where you're using a high degree of IT skills tend to pay more. And regardless of that, actually, digital skills are pretty much prevalent in every occupation nowadays. Occupations that traditionally would never have seen that. We see nurses and early years professionals using iPads, logging things on there. So I think actually getting by at all is going to be really difficult, and digital really needs to be thought of alongside reading, writing, and maths is really basic skills that everybody needs just to get through life.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you look at those figures, I know we're going to be delving into data a little bit later, but like when you look at those figures as well, that's kind of alarming. We've got more higher numbers of economically inactive compared to those that are taking like employability benefits and the such. But could that be down to those essential digital skills and stuff like that? It's just really interesting. Today's a really important show. Everyone knows I'm totally into like AI. Let's go for it. Let's move forward with lots of different things. But what are some of those risks if we're introducing more technology into education system? including emerging things like AI, without addressing these essential foundational skills. Like, these are really important digital skills, digital literacy skills for learners, but also for educators, for everyone. But what do we need to do around that?
Yeah, so I mean, again, using an analogy, you think of this as the same way as we would, driving a car or operating a chainsaw. You're not going to give somebody a car or a chainsaw and say, off you go. We need to give people the skills that they need to be able to use those things. And AI is no different, really. If we're going to unlock the opportunities through AI and mitigate the threats that come along with that, it's about people understanding how to use that properly. AI is only really effective if you understand how to use those prompts. And again,
Yep.
if we think about in teaching, we're only going to be able to pick up malpractice and inappropriate use of AI if people are aware of how to spot the signs of that and how to use it. So really, it's coming in and it's going to be around. So the more people that can understand how to use that, I think will help us to steer more towards the opportunities and away from the threats that come along with that.
Yeah, no, definitely. And you mentioned threats a few times. I think that's really important. I think everyone has had a relative that's had a problem with, like, buying either Google cards or some sort of voucher for someone, or had some sort of fraudulent activity. And I think it's really important that we can help people with that. I wonder if we could bring in our guests. We've got two epic guests. I want to bring them in kind of rapid because we've mentioned two data sets, but I think it's time to better to delve into this a little bit deeper. We've got David Redden from NCFE, and congrats, David, on your 15-year anniversary the other day with NCFE. Also, we've got Julie Hawker, MBE. I mentioned Julie earlier. Like, Julie is really kind of interesting for a number of different reasons, actually. She's a trustee at Future.now, so that was some of the data sets we were using from the Essential Digital Skills Gap report. But it's also Southwest Regional Rep for Good Things Foundation, the Snowflake O2 sort of advert, but also is CEO of Cosmic. And being, like, not many people, but don't, in fact, probably hardly anyone knows this, Cosmic helped us several years ago when FE News was going through our own digital transformation to be able to help people unlock and be able to use a platform as a platform. So it's really good to have Julie onto the show as well. So David, I wonder if I could bring you in. Julie, I wonder if I could bring you in. Welcome. How are you guys?
Good to be here. Thanks for that intro, Gavin.
Oh, no worries. It's kind of interesting. You not many people cross so many different things, Julie. That's why I had to read it off. I was like, it's like the longest list of how many different roles that you got, actually.
I'm really delighted to hear that Cosmic helped you, Gavin. That's a lovely way to start this section.
Yeah, no problem. Well, everyone needs help. So, like, I think this is really cool to be able to do this. Like, Michael, did you want to kick off?
Yeah, I'd like to come to Julie first, actually. So Gavin mentioned the Essentials Digital Skills Gap report from Future.now, Julie. So I know that you'll have a lot of kind of stats in your head, really, when we talk about this. But I wonder what's your view of the current state of digital skills in the UK, and thinking about those essential digital skills, things like staying safe and skills for the workplace that we mentioned in your introduction there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure there will be lots of people that aren't as familiar. Obviously, this is my, everyday experience, but I'm sure there will be lots of people that perhaps aren't as familiar with these data sets. So there are two data sets to look at, one of which was published just last week, 19th of November, and that's a yearly report. This is the 6th year of Lloyd's publishing what they call their Consumer Digital Index. So that brings us not only the latest information, and I'll quote some of that, but also it brings us 6 years of comparative data as well. So it's a really, really good source to look at as it's published. And obviously I drilled into that last week. And then, as you said, Michael, the work of Future.now, which has worked alongside Lloyd's, by the way, the frameworks I'm going to refer to feature in the Lloyd's report and have been built on by the Future.now campaign. So, it's great that we've got two major national pieces of work going on side by side at this time when the drive needs to go forward. So in terms of numbers, what we know from this very latest report is that 22 million people in the UK workforce feel their digital skills need to be improved. Now, that's a massive, massive number. In fact, it's 48% of the workforce that do feel digitally capable. So, you know, it's a really, really striking set of data that tells us just what the state of play looks like in the UK, and particularly in workforce skills. Now, there's also a part of the Essential Digital Skills Framework that looks at skills for life. So there are two sections to it. There's skills for work, skills for life. 25 million people are judged not to have the set of skills for life when it comes to being digitally capable. In fact, 8.5 million of those lack any of the foundational skills. And in terms of the things you were just rehearsing, Michael, that means we've got people out there who are financially excluded, are excluded from education, are excluded from social and entertainment, excluded from their health support. You know, the ramifications of these are not just numbers. These are fundamental to people's enjoyment, progression, and health. You know, what could be more fundamental than that? And Michael, I heard you reference, you know, that there are clearly people in amongst those numbers who have particular challenges. So low-income households are highlighted in both reports. Older people, people who suffer any form of disability, they have significant and added needs. But the other message I wanted to bring is that basic digital capability and confidence is in every demographic. So it's not just those perhaps harder to reach people that we should be attending to at this time. And I'm really happy to share the links to both of those pieces of work, because I think, you know, everyone would benefit from, you know, making themselves more aware of these issues and becoming aware of them. And if I may, I'll do a call out from the Future.now piece, which is please sign the charter. So if you're here today from an organisation, please can you sign the charter? And as I say, we can get the links into the comments over there.
Wow. So yeah, very, very comprehensive then. And I think that just shows the kind of scale and complexity of the problem that we're dealing with, really. Welcome back, Gavin. I see you had some tech problems of your own.
Oh,
there.
my life, you can't believe, but David said this before the show, that I bet there's going to be a tech issue, and like, yeah, we'd had a power cut. I'm now joining you by the power of a mobile SIM. So you can't believe that, really, can you? David, can we talk about some of the barriers around the lack of digital skills can create in terms of education and employment for people? Is there a stigma attached as well? Because I feel embarrassed that I'm on a show around essential digital skills, and I've just been cut off when I'm hosting it. But is there a stigma for other people who, you know, don't know who to turn to or don't know what to do when they've got these barriers to these essential workplace and life skills?
Yeah, sorry for cursing with that, Gavin. But yeah, I do think there is a stigma to lack of digital skills, certainly in the workplace. You know, with the advancement in digital technology now, there's a certain expectation that digital skills is a given. You know, people can use a mobile phone, people got tablets, people are streaming on television, but this is a different type of digital skills, and it affects all age groups. You know, and certainly in the workplace, there's an embarrassment about admitting you can't do certain tasks, and an underlying worry that exposing lack of skills could put your job at risk. I know NCFE, when we did our internal digital skills campaign for staff, the first thing that came out, like, oh, I don't want to sit an assessment that might expose my lack of digital skills, because like what will my manager say, you know? And this is a safe environment at NCFE, and you know, it's not a cutthroat environment. You know, referring to the Future.now data that Julie mentioned before, you know, that's 54% that cannot complete all 20 tasks. You know, this goes from the bottom up to the top, because more than 1 in 3 people earn over £75,000 cannot do all 20 tasks at their workplace. So, you know, it's from your CEO down that this is across that demographic. You know, and interestingly from that, the number one task that people couldn't do was improve productivity using organization digital tools. You know, 31% of people cannot do that. So if you cast your mind back to the job, You know, it could be colleagues sharing a document on SharePoint, but not giving you the access or editing right to do it. It could be someone doing a presentation, not sharing the slide correctly. It could be working on a project and not being interact with the Microsoft Planner tool. You know, it's a common occurrence that we see. I certainly know in NCFE a lot, and it's easy to accept that. However, it does cause a lot of workarounds and disengagement with the tool. Often tools that companies spent a lot of money on implementing. However, what they've not done is done that implementation and employees ensuring that they've got the skills to operate those tools. And I know, again, referring to NCFE, Teams would not have been the success it was at NCFE if it wasn't for the lockdown. Before it happened, there was a lot of resistance, a lot of fear about moving over to Teams. It was like, oh, I'll just continue with my email. Thank you very much. I know what they are. Learning a new skill like that was like very challenging. You know, even in education, more and more study is being done remotely. Apprenticeships are a perfect example of this, where predominantly learners are engaging with learner management systems, e-portfolios, and completing work, uploading evidence. If they lack that core digital skills, independently engaging with them digital platforms is a massive barrier, and you're likely to see them drop out or not engage, and therefore not attain that achievement. So it's important that we look at digital skills in the very same way we do with English and math. We see more and more apprenticeship providers do this in assessing digital skills alongside English and math, so that the learners have them skills as well.
Yeah, no, it's really important, isn't it? That's interesting that you're saying that the lockdown was an incredible benefit, because a lot of people were sort of like, it seems like a different age, doesn't it? But there was that great big barrier. We used to say like, oh, do you want to do a Zoom call or something? And people were like, what is Zoom? Before the pandemic and something. It's interesting how the world has changed so much in that period of time, but how important more now than ever having these essential skills are really. That was really cool.
And I wonder how much that, you know, some people have been left behind in all of that as well. You know, so actually we've spent a long time talking about the size and scale of the problem. I feel like we should start to get onto solutions now as well in the time we've got left. Julie, obviously we've talked a lot about how people of all ages can struggle with digital skills. I think one of the hardest things for training providers and colleges is how do we actually get people into the classroom? A lot of those people might be reluctant.
Yeah, and I think, you know, this notion of people needing to be in a classroom is one that I'd like to just test us on first, because, you know, now, here and now, as we've just rehearsed, especially post-pandemic, being on a learning program could be a physical classroom. Yes, of course it could, but it could be a virtual classroom. It could be, you know, all manner of hybrid ways of learning. And I think, you know, my first point on this is, please can all training providers embrace that that's the world we're living in now, and look to ways to improve on hybrid learning delivery, and making sure that the needs of the learner and the motivation of the learner is first and foremost in their mind. What we found, you know, in the day job at Cosmic, we deliver a lot of digital skills training. And what we found is, if you're going to do physical training, then find the spaces, the venues that people are really comfortable, especially anyone who has a fear factor around technology, because that still exists, you know, and make sure that you're delivering in a style that looks to their own personal motivation. So pick out content that they see as a direct need for their learning and fits in. Now, as we discussed earlier, that might be access to NHS services, it might be managing their finance, or it might be wider learning opportunities. You know, digital is now a great gateway for all learning subject areas. So, you know, use that as a motivation. Sometimes we just go to the simple hobby-based motivations as a starting point with learners, and that works really, really well. The other tip I've got is that, and again, speaking from many years of experience through Cosmic, we often find it a really good route is to find a trusted community venue or organisation that already has a link in with these learners. So, you know, learners have familiar faces, familiar surroundings maybe, but also it's far easier to build peer learning groups in those environments. And you know, like you say, also, don't forget the basics. I think what these stats, these very recent statistics are showing us is that there is a fundamental basic issue here. So don't forget the basics. Learning cannot happen without a decent device and a decent connection. So, you know, it's pointless. Yes, Gavin, you just evidenced. So it's pointless us thinking of taking people through a learning program where, you know, their backup learning and their need to do homework or whatever it might be is not supported. And that's where the work of the Good Things Foundation and, you know, the SIM cards, you know, the data bank and the device bank that we work on really steps up, especially for those people on low incomes. So, you know, make sure as training providers, I think the responsibility is on us really strongly now to make sure we are factoring in all of these things, not just the quality of the learning. That's vitally important, of course, but have a broader look at what digital means and the way that we motivate people. My final point on this one, Michael, if I may, is lots of people will be motivated and have been, you know, for recent years by cyber attacks. So, you know, cybersecurity is in there as one of our essential digital skills. And of course, it hits the news all the time. But it's almost finding that middle ground between fear factor and elevating that to a level where people go, oh, it's okay, I'm better off not being online then, and guiding them through better cyber practices that mean they'll be confident in their use. So I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. Time's flying. It always does on these shows, isn't it?
Yeah.
I wonder if I could probably, like David, I think you mentioned something really interesting around this being at all levels. So from CEO to college principal, all the way through to everybody around those digital skills gap. But government, rightly so, is asking everyone to be as productive as possible. So we, you know, using tools in particular to be productive. I wonder if I could ask everyone really is like, what can we do to better help encourage productivity by using those tools and skills? It seems in places such a difficult mountain to climb because of, you know, like there's you know, loads of different parameters to it, from access to, you know, how that's sort of delivered, but also like, you know, someone who's in a role who thinks they should be able to deliver this already. What can we do to increase productivity, or how do we upskill our existing teams and workforce? David, I don't know if I could start off with yourself.
Okay, big question.
Yeah.
You know, in terms of, you know, getting back to internal staff, you know, there's that area where, you know, certainly in training providers and FE, we'll focus on the learner, and rightly so, but you've got to look at the staff as well. You've got to look at FeatureApp.now done some great stuff around self-assessment tools, where you can do the self-assessment on the 20 essential digital skills. Use like a Microsoft form or Google document, and you can really see the profile of your staff, your company, and you can identify, you know, what we mentioned before, 31% can't use the company tools. You can put CPD sessions on to start getting them upskilling and understanding how to share a document in the correct way, for example. And, you know, that will increase that productivity. You know, that will allow, like, we waste so much time on these little things that we don't really pick up on, but there's really a big opportunity there to build up on that. There's different things that assessment of staff is really key in putting a program in and giving them a route as well. You know, NCFE and we allow people to sit in assessment, find out their levels. It wasn't mandatory and voluntary. And from identifying their levels, would give them a learning route, a skills plan that they could follow. And we found 75% of people who sat that initial assessment went on to do at least one piece of learning, which is fabulous, you know, and that's off their own back. People do want to improve their skills. So there's a lot you can do looking within your area and putting stuff in place that can support people.
Yeah, Julie, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, building on what David said, Future.now early in 2025 will be releasing online versions of the Essential Digital Skills checklist, and support employers, therefore, to do those sort of internal audits of skills. And our aim there is to make sure that produces a baseline from which employers can then uplift skills. So my answer to the question is fairly straightforward. Make sure all of your staff can do these 20 skills, and make sure that you use that to inform digital skills advancement in your own workforce. Because, David's point is very well made. We will all serve this population, this working population that has a deficit of digital skills will be much better served by staff who have them and have already progressed and are motivated by their learning. So I think that's absolutely the right angle for me.
And Michael, anything you want to add to that? Because you're looking at policy across the board on all of this.
I mean, I feel that the government could and should do a lot more to facilitate learning in this space, but it should be said that, everyone who's above 16 years old in this country has a legal entitlement to the essential digital skills qualification if they don't hold that. So actually, I think what schools and colleges providers can do is to reach out, and it's very, very hard to go out and find those people, but actually if you can use that as a lever to engage them in learning, actually you might get them to learn other things on top of that as well. But I think that's a good start. We've got to use what we do have in the policy environment, to build on, really.
If I may come back in, Gavin, on Michael's point, I've been involved in several government level roundtables, autumn and into the winter, very recently with two government ministers, and we've talked specifically about that essential digital skills qualification. The take up is miserably low, and so spoke to colleagues at DFE as well as Government Department DSIT about modular approaches to essential digital skills, because that in itself indicates that there is a problem with momentum around that level. I think the qualification requires a minimum, off the top of my head, Michael, 45 hours of learning. Most of the delivery we're doing through Cosmic for people seeking a job, let's use that as an example, averages 15 hours in order for them to secure employment. So I think we've got to look again at the qualifications side of this agenda in order to make progress. And that's a point I've made very strongly with government in recent weeks.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point around like length of time, modular, and also by design as well, isn't it? Like with my connectivity today, with someone who's also has sort of similar issues. We have like 1 minute 30 left. I can't believe that time is this. If you could unlock one opportunity to be able to help people with based on essential digital skills, what would it be, David?
I would make digital skills part of the core curriculum in schools. Often we talk about the post-16, the problem. We're not tackling that root problem. The GCSE computer science has seen a 50% drop in female taking it from the previous GCSE in information technology. That's scary. Young females are most at risk online from security, from setting privacy settings. We've got to have these young people having that safety online, that digital footprint knowledge in order to progress through. And if we're not starting to tackle the problem at the root of the cause, we're just catching up.
Yeah, no, really good point. Judy, what would you want to see?
David stole mine. So I had a note here saying, let's get essential digital skills into all curriculum. So I'll replace that with, let's make 2025 the year for digital skills learning. And let's keep on pushing hard. Let's get organizations, businesses, providers to sign up to the charter. And let's really give it the biggest push we possibly can next year.
Yeah, sounds cool. Michael, what would you want to see?
I'm going to build on what Julie and David have said and really turn it into a culture of lifelong learning. I think we can't forget older people in this as well, and people need to understand it's that cultural thing that they need to learn this stuff and keep learning it throughout their lives, because technology is changing at quite a scary pace.
Yeah, no, it sounds cool. For me, I've been experiencing it, or even I'm in Exeter and on like super fast broadband connectivity. I went all the way to Singapore, met someone from the education secretary for Bogota, who's putting in different things which I haven't seen in Colombia, which I haven't seen in the UK. You know, we've got connectivity anywhere. You know, Starlink we could do anywhere. Why can't we do that for everyone? Shows is just disappeared. Thank you so much, Aaron. What a really cool show. Julie, thank you so much. David, Michael, thank you. Next week we've got a slightly different format of the show. We're going to be unlocking and exploring T levels. So we will see you again next Thursday, 10 a.m. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today, and see you really soon.